We made dinner rolls yesterday, and here's the cool thing about this recipe. It uses sourdough discard, but it also uses yeast, which means you can mix it up, make it, enjoy it all in the same afternoon. It literally only takes about maybe an hour and a half for them to do all of their rising. And if you have a bread maker that has the dough setting, you can throw all of these ingredients in, let it mix it, let it help it rise, and then all you have to do is shape them. So I saved this one because everyone wanted to eat the whole batch last night, and we had to show you all of this goodness. The cool thing is, even the second day, they're so fluffy, they're really moist, they have just a little bit of sweetness. They're so good. You're gonna have a million things that you can serve them with, but it's so nice to be able to use the sourdough discard and be able to make it all in one day. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to get your water, your milk, your butter, your honey, put it in a microwavable container. I love these little glass ones. And you want to heat it up for maybe a minute so that your butter is melted. The honey can be incorporated into the milk and that liquid. And then this is now ready to be the base for our dough. If you are going to use your bread machine to let everything get mixed up together in there, just ensure that the butter and the honey are warm so that they can easily get incorporated, because you don't want chunks of butter in this recipe and you don't want chunks of honey. You want it to be able to be smooth and liquidy, to be able to easily mix into all of the dough. Once all those ingredients are warmed and melted together, mix them up, set it aside, and get your scale out and your bowl. Now, you can do this in the bread maker like we've already said. You can use your stand mixer with the dough hook, or if you have a Danish dough whisk or a fork even. This is so easy to mix up by hand. And this is not like making a batch of sourdough bread where you really shouldn't mix it too much and you want the sourdough to do all of the work. This is like making a yeasted bread, because we are going to use yeast. The sourdough discard or starter is just giving it this extra flavor and oomph. So you can use your dough hook. You're going to knead this for a couple of minutes. Put all of those warmed ingredients in first. Then we add in our sourdough discard or starter. I like to use it fluffy and happy. I fed this starter specifically to make this batch of rolls. So I do think it works better if it is an active starter. It's okay if you fed it yesterday and you didn't have time and you popped it back into the fridge. That will still work for this recipe because we're using yeast. The yeast is gonna give it this boost to get it rising. But this is a really great recipe to have on hand when you've made a big batch of sourdough dough and then you just fed extra starters so that you already had it ready to make something else. And like I already said, this recipe is so awesome because you can mix it all up, bake it, and enjoy it the exact same day. It only takes a couple hours instead of it needing to proof for hours and hours and hours like a traditional sourdough. Once you have the discard mixed into that warmed milk and butter and honey, we're gonna add in 550 grams of flour. You don't need to mix this in just yet because we're gonna add the yeast in next, and then we're gonna allow the dough hook to do all of the work of mixing. So in goes our 1.5 teaspoons of active yeast. This is the trick to getting it to rise really fast, is we want that yeast in there. And now we just let the dough hook do all of the magic of mixing it up. But again, this dough is so soft and lovely, you'd easily be able to do it by hand. If you're using a stand mixer, let it run until that dough is fully incorporated and it's very soft. There's no more lumps. It ends up being maybe 3 to 4 minutes on the low speed. Once it starts incorporating, that's when I add in the salt. This isn't like the normal sourdough where you don't add the salt in straight away. We want all of the ingredients to actually rest together because they're gonna rise, and we don't want to do a big full kneading later on to get the salt incorporated. So once your ingredients start incorporating in there, add in your salt. Once your dough has kneaded for several minutes, I actually like to transfer mine to a clean bowl. I put just a little bit of olive oil in the bowl so that the dough doesn't stick to it. This just helps me ensure that everything's incorporated really well. And instead of trying to scrape the other bowl a bunch to make sure that there's no dried bits on the side, I just put the nice kneaded dough into a clean bowl, and it's gonna rest in here and rise for about an hour. At this point, your dough should be very soft, not lumpy. It's gonna be a little bit tacky, but it shouldn't be super sticky on your fingers. So if it is, go ahead and dust it with a little bit of flour. And this now gets to rest in a nice warm spot. So a good spot would be that somewhere where it's around 70-ish degrees consistently, because we want this yeast to do all of the work of rising, because look at this, it's getting nice and fluffy. It almost doubles in size on a warm day in about 45 minutes to an hour. Then what we're going to do is prep the pan that we are going to make the rolls in. And I use a 9x13 pan, and you don't have to use your food scale for this part, but I like to use it just to ensure that each of the rolls is about the same size. And the goal is that you're going to be pulling off chunks of dough that are roughly 2.5 grams. Even though we are working with the dough to shape it, I still do use these little knives. They're so great. They're serrated to cut off chunks of dough so that I'm not completely pushing all of the air out of it. To shape a roll, you're just gently pulling the sides of the dough down so that you can almost make like a little bundle with those ends together. And then that is the part that's the bottom. So that part goes into the pan. And you're going to repeat this process over and over until you get to the very last bit of dough, and you will have 15 rolls. Now, if the dough is feeling just a little bit sticky on your fingers, go ahead and put some flour on the counter. It's okay to use a little bit of flour so that the dough is not hard for you to work with. But there you go. Now your pan is full of the 15 rolls. They're still very fluffy, but we want this to rise one more time before we bake it. So cover it, let it rest somewhere warm for about 45 more minutes, and then we're gonna pop these into the oven. I went out to the garden while these were rising, and can you even believe that dahlia? It is so stunning. But check out the rolls, they've doubled in size, yay. Now we're gonna turn the oven on to 400 degrees, and these are gonna cook for 25 to 30 minutes. But check yours at about 20 minutes. Every oven is a little bit different. We like ours to get pretty toasted brown on the top because the inside is still gonna be so soft. And then here is the secret sauce. Get a stick of butter, and you're gonna just rub the tops of the rolls with the butter as soon as you take them out of the oven. This just finishes the top off, gives it a little bit of a gloss, but also so much delicious flavor with this butter just rubbed over the top. I go over them a couple times and allow the butter to kind of just melt down over them. I let them cool just slightly, and then they're ready for us to enjoy. This isn't like a sourdough loaf that you have to allow to fully cool before you do anything with it. No. This is a traditional yeasted roll with the boost of sourdough starter in it, and now you can enjoy them however you want. We're gonna put some plum butter on ours. I'll put the link to the video below for the plum butter. It's so delicious. You can actually make it with any kind of fruit you have on hand, apples or pears or whatever you wanna put on it. We love to serve these with soups and stews and all sorts of deliciousness. They're great for if you're gonna make a traditional like roast dinner. Put some peanut butter and jelly on it, or use it to make ham and cheese sandwiches. And if you want to go wild, you can even tuck a chunk of cheese into the middle of the dough before you even bake it. I'll put the link to that recipe below as well. There's so much goodness down in the description below. Links to our full sourdough playlist, our cookbook, all of the goodness. We're so glad you're here in the kitchen with us. We look forward to baking with you again soon.